the sun and give thanks for today and for our creation. Wabanagi people.
In our creation story, after the Creator had created the universe and Mother Earth, he had a little piece of clay left over. So he created the Mi'kmaq people. He said, I would like to create people that look like me. And he created the Mi'kmaq people, and still he had more clay left over. So what he done is he fashioned an island in the form of a crescent. He told his helper Glooskap, he said, I want you to fly this island down to Mother Earth and put it in the most beautiful spot in the world. So when he got to the Gulf of St. Lawrence, he dropped EPEGOIT into the water. He said, now we'll call this place APTN, which means cradled on the waves. And it became a sparkling jewel in the Gulf.
Historically, the Mi'kmaq lived a simple life. They were resourceful, using all available materials around them for survival. The Mi'kmaq only hunted and gathered enough food for what they needed.
The conventional history, Mi'kmaq history of PEI, is that people just came here for the summer and to eat the oysters and then go back to the mainland. But there were significant populations on PEI since day one, since the very earliest history in PEI.
People have always been here. Some people lived here all year round. During the nomadic years, people lived in Malpeque Bay and most of PEI, anywhere there was fresh water.
Once the Europeans came to the territory, there were many challenges for the Mi'kmaq to simply survive. The freedom to continue seasonal migration was critical for their existence.
One of the treaties stated, and I think it was one of the most significant ones, is stated that no land could be taken away from the Mi'kmaq without their consent and without reimbursement. But, and I think that it was in the early 60s, and in 1767, shortly after this treaty was made with the British divided all of Prince Edward Island into, I think, 69 different lots of land, or plots of land, and they had a lottery in England and gave it away to the aristocracy in England in one fell swoop, and all of the island was taken away from the Mi'kmaq. There wasn't one bit of land left for the Mi'kmaq anywhere that they could, according to the British at least, say that was theirs.
So the Aboriginal Protection Society of London in 1860 had bought Lennox Island for the benefit of the Mi'kmaq people.
If it wasn't for that, they probably wouldn't have any land at all in PEI to claim their own. That just goes to show you just that kind of treatment that the Mi'kmaq has received from the British.
Our people didn't really move to Lennox Island until around 1950. There may be 10 or 12 families there before that had farmed, but the other people lived in the woods in Northam, Bloomfield, all over the province. And they made axe handles and pick handles and all kinds of utensils that the farmers would need, including potato baskets, because there was no harvesters. Now, when the harvesters came on the scene around 1960, like a lot of our economy had fallen. If you look at any other culture, I don't think that they would be here today if they had to go through all that the Mi'kmaq people had to go through, like the residential schools, the placing on reserves where there was no resources to live on.
Captain John Joe Sark has researched and discovered many historical details of the Mi'kmaq past in PEI. One of the areas of knowledge is the Mi'kmaq involvement in the World Wars.
Well, I was really proud of our Mi'kmaq people because every available man in the First World War, the Second World War, had joined the Army. And even the women from Lennox Island joined the war effort by going to Halifax and working in the munitions plants. John J. Sark was my uncle, and he was the first Mi'kmaq person to join the Army in the First World War. Because he was going away to join the Army and enter a war, he had to denounce his rights to the chieftainship of the Mi'kmaq people of PEI. I'd like to write a book with all that because I have the pictures and I have most of the stories of the veterans. I don't know if I'll ever get around to doing it. If I don't, I'll pass it on to somebody else.
After the war, sustaining life in Lennox Island was challenging in many ways. Even the basic need of getting on and off the island was a danger the people confronted regularly.
The only way you could get here would be by ferry. That's in the summertime. In the wintertime, you had to cross the ice. In doing that, we did lose a lot of people for one reason or another. Some people got a little too brave and tried to drive vehicles across, and so we lost a lot that way.
Sometimes you'd be walking through about 2 feet of slush, and it was really hard for people to get their groceries 5 miles away. So a lot of people walked there and took little hand sleds in the wintertime and brought their groceries over. You could be walking on the ice one day and the next day there'd be no ice there.
In the spring, there was always like someone that would go through the ice, and you can hear a lot of stories from different elders in the community about when this one went through the ice or that one went through the ice, and we lost lives that way.
Things didn't really advance till probably 1973 or 4, when the causeway did come. If somebody got sick and they were dying, like they could never get a doctor over there, which was very difficult. If there was trouble, even the police couldn't get there sometimes. So, we're sort of left on an island to die, out of mind and out of sight.
Lennox Island is located off the north shore of Prince Edward Island. We have a small little causeway. If you blink your eyes, you'll miss it, but that's how you get onto the island. We have a population of approximately 425 residents that live in our community. My band membership is 800.
The Mi'kmaq people of Lennox Island PEI have persevered to not just survive, but to succeed. They are conducting various initiatives, including the Lennox Island Development Corporation, commercial fishery, and even tourism.
We're open for visitors in the summertime. The ecotourism facility that we have here, we have staff here in the summertime, a lot of youth, and Gilbert Sark is more or less the guy in charge of this facility in the summer, and he welcomes guests, and he'll show them how to make drums, and he'll take them on trails and do the interpretation of our trails.
They like it. We decided that we needed something to draw tourism, to draw tourists in, and we thought that the trail system would be the ideal thing, and the trail ended up to be 11.5 kilometers long.
I've had people say to me it's one of the nicest trail systems in the Atlantic because it is so diverse. You don't have to go very far to be in a different setting.
As the trails were being built, there are certain areas here that contain a tremendous amount of snakes because there's a den, and there's also a trail that has 4 or 5 dens for foxes, so automatically it became Fox Trail. We have a trail that is aligned to a beaver area, so that's the beaver trail. And then the other areas, of course, are northern trail. Well, you can't go any further north. And then the beach trails, well, that's quite evident because it takes you along the water edge. So, and then one trail in particular, we call it the Storyteller Trail. And the reason being is because Tom Snake lived there and he was a storyteller. So that's how that all came about.
Even as the Lennox Island First Nation looks outward for opportunity, they also have seen opportunity looking inward to their own community.
We had the space in the community. It used to be an old ball field, and it wasn't being used because we built another one. So it's right in the center of the community, and council was having discussions about the space. And you know, where some of us were thinking, well, we should put houses there and things like that. But I was more of the mind that we have such a beautiful that's that we really should have a green space. So all I did was mention it to an elder, and then he just took off with it.
So that's Memorial Garden was a concept created by Captain John Joe Sark. It was a dream that he ended up, basically, this is the reality of that dream. But it was also a hope and a desire by the chief that the community would have a green space, a place that they could come and just relax.
Well, one day I was sitting down in the chief's office, and she said, I have a piece of land out there that I would like to protect as a green space. And I said, well, if you want me to design something, I will. And she said, sure, go ahead. So I came home and started thinking about it. And then I said, maybe we should have a garden that's shaped like a medicine wheel that also includes both our spiritualities of Christian and traditional. So I thought of a great big medicine wheel. We'll have a medicine wheel with the 4 sacred colors of flowers here. And right alongside that will be a road for people to walk on. And then there's benches. We'll have clover, white clover in the north over here. Then in the east we'll have yellow clover, and then the south we'll have red clover. And then we'll have benches where people can sit down and just relax. And we'll have shade trees beside them. And we have vegetable beds here.
And these gardens will be vegetable and flower. Vegetable in particular because what will be produced here will be feeding the elders for their meals.
And this big road is almost fills a quadrant. That's full of sunflowers. Now, there's sunflowers in the garden. Oh my God, the garden will be beautiful in about 5 or 10 years. Like the trees are only small now. But I think it's so important that in a community that we have something that we can see, something that's living, and something that we can relate to. Because when you see the medicine wheel itself and the importance of the 4 different colors, and everything in our culture is taught in 4s, like our 4 parts of our body, our emotions, our mental, our spiritual, and our physical, and the 4 seasons, everything.
Once it's done, I think it'll be a beautiful addition to the community for the community to enjoy and for visitors to enjoy, and it's something that we'll be very proud of.
The community as a whole will benefit from it. And the gardens will become not only a memorial to the past, but also a memorial to the present and the future, because then the kids will learn what the past was, what the present is today, and then hopefully what the future will be for them.
Lennox Island First Nation has had various people rise to prominence. John Joe Sark has not only become a respected Mi'kmaq historian, John Joe Sark has also represented the Mi'kmaq people to the United Nations and to Rome. John Joe Sark has also been very active at home as a member of the Grand Council.
The Grand Council is the traditional government. Our duty is to protect and our treaties and our cultural integrity. Our only problem is we don't get any core funding from anybody. And if we have to go anywhere, I think I went to Geneva, 11 years in a row to represent the Mi'kmaq Nation and help draft the rights of the indigenous people of the world. And we had to raise money for that. I raised money myself each year. And then when I went to Rome, I also raised the money to go there also. So I was there about 3 times. And one of those visits, I had hand-delivered a letter to the Pope in regard to the residential schools.
As a historian, John Joe created a film called Spirit World with Brian Pollard.
I've been making documentaries here in PEI for well over 30 years. And mostly I tell stories, I guess, that aren't generally told. And every now and then I find a really good story and I just can't resist it, and I just find myself making a documentary on that particular story. In the case of Spirit World, I went to see a government bureaucrat about a matter, and he didn't discuss that so much, but he said, I know what your next documentary is going to be. It's going to be working with John Joe. And this little voice inside my head said, hell will freeze over first. And he said, but we have $20,000 for a script. And I said, that sounds like a great idea.
I was working with the province of PEI at the time as a cultural resource officer, and my deputy minister told Alan, he said, you're going to have to work with John Joe Sark on this on a project, making a film. And I had a bad name here for the simple reason is that I always protected our people's rights, so a lot of people may have thought I was too passionate about it. And I think Brian was one of them. He said, you want me to work with him? But then he became one of my best friends.
The relationship with John Joe and me, John Joe he was a person who knew the Mi'kmaq story, and he knew all the people, and he knew what would work and what wouldn't. It was a collaboration in the sense I brought my filmmaking experience. And as a team, I think we worked together really, really well.
I got all the costumes that they had used in Squanto, and we started shooting in PEI in some of the remote areas in PEI where there was beaches and good trails in the woods. So we shot here, we shot in Kijimikuji, we shot in Cape Breton, all over. I wanted to show the Canadian public how strong and how resilient our people were. We're still here, and we'll be here for a long time. I'd like to just keep on doing as much as I can to help, and keep creating goodwill for our people with different programs that we can take advantage of. And I think all I can see ahead of me is just do what I can.
Earth, the sun, moon.
I want to see a strong, vibrant First Nation community that's practicing its language and its culture, and it's passing it on to the next generation. That's what my vision is.
You're
So talented.
You're only quick sketches.
I do actually like the blue ones that come in.
Oh, the ones there? We have to start building on the pride of our young people now. And for as far as the future goes, I think the future lies with the young people. It lies with the change of attitude away from dependency, economic dependency, onto self-sufficiency.